Conference 2019, the online summit for e-commerce sellers. I'd like to introduce our guest and myself. My name is Ash Ahuja. I'm the co-founder at SellerApp, and our guest today is the one and only John Lawson. We're honored to have John open our conference. John is synonymous with e-commerce, be it eBay or Amazon. He's a 3 times best-selling author on Amazon, a legendary digital visionary. He has spoken to thousands of entrepreneurs on 5 continents. Our goal for the Elite Conference is quite simple, helping each and every seller be more successful on Amazon. For that, we are privileged to have various experts that will provide pertinent tips, be it product research, sourcing, listing optimization, or advanced topics like Amazon-sponsored ads, brand protection, etc. Today, we start out with e-commerce mindset, which is the building block to any Amazon business. What does it take to build a successful e-commerce business in 2019 and beyond? Ladies and gentlemen, I present John Lawson to you. John, over to you, sir.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. All right, guys, you are in for a treat. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get started. I really appreciate that intro. It's like, wow.
My pleasure.
I know. It sounds like you guys got something special going on, and it's just me. So anyway.
It is, indeed.
All right, folks, hold on. We're about to go fast. I'm going to breeze through this, but I am going to kind of take some time and just a little bit of pause for reflection, because I think what we're going to cover, and I really appreciate being, asked to do this, the first presentation, because I think it really sets up what you guys are going to go through over the next few sessions and really give you the opportunity to ingest this information, spit it back out, and actually take action inside of your business that's going to transform your fourth quarter and your 2020. So hold on, we're about to go fast. I want to tell you about how I got started. The first thing I ever sold were some Elton John tickets on eBay. This is back in the 90s. So yes, I am ancient. I've been doing this for over 20 years. And what happened was I had bought some tickets to Elton John's concert in New York City, and I live in Atlanta. And I was working a full-time job at the time, and I got an opportunity to get pre-sale tickets. So I didn't ask anybody if I could go or if I could take the day off. I just wanted the opportunity to grab tickets to, a legendary concert that was going to happen in New York City. Well, lo and behold, I didn't ask. And that weekend that the show was, they were having an upgrade to our systems and all hands were on deck. So I was not allowed to take that day off. And what ended up happening is I had paid a lot of money for these tickets. I mean, it's Elton John, it's Madison Square Garden. He hadn't been on tour in years. So this was like his comeback. So it was really, really an important show. And the ticket prices were high as hell. And the deal was I didn't want to lose all my money, right? And so somebody said, hey, did you try to sell them on eBay? And I was like, eBay? What, you can sell stuff like that on eBay? I thought it was for used socks or something. I didn't really know that you could sell pretty much anything on eBay. So anyway, long story short, I put these tickets up on eBay and I started the auction off at 99 cents. I really wanted to get at least $100 back for this pair of tickets, right? Remember, this is the 90s, so ticket prices today are nowhere near what they were 20 years ago. So I ended up putting them on, and it was a 7-day auction. I remember this. It was a 7-day auction, and day 5, nothing. Nobody had even bid 99 cents. And remember, I had never used eBay, so I didn't understand the concept. But sometime on the eve of the 5th day, I actually got a 99-cent bid, right? By the 6th day, around lunchtime, I got a second bid. And it had went up to somewhere around $75 because they bid, the other person bid, back and forth, and it ended up around $75. and I'm still feeling kind of flaky because I need at least 100, you know, just to make me feel good. So day 7, I'm going to end the auction. The auction is going to end in the evening. And sometime around the early afternoon, there got to be some activity. And it got up over $100. It was like $125. But nobody prepared me for what happened with eBay auctions 5 minutes before it ended on something that somebody wanted. And all of a sudden, the activity went nuts. And I ended up selling a pair of tickets that I had paid $175 for the pair. I ended up selling them for $850. And
Wow.
literally, I was hooked after that.
One
I
of those
was
aha
so
moments,
hooked.
right?
Yes, I was so hooked on that process that I started looking around my house for anything that I could sell. And I started putting that stuff up on eBay. And when that stuff ran out, I started looking at my friend's house and my mom's house. People got to the point where they weren't even letting me in because I was trying to sell anything in their house that I could on eBay. So basically, I built my business on eBay in the very early beginnings. Around 2001, I started taking it pretty serious. And this is a older screenshot of, I think we're at 90,000 something. We're close to 100,000 feedback on eBay. And I haven't sold on eBay probably in 2 years. I kind of abandoned that for Amazon. And we'll talk about that succession as well as I go forward. But as he said, you know, I've done a lot of speaking. A lot of times people come to me and ask me about the e-commerce space, just simply because I've been doing it for such a long, protracted period of time. But when I was working on my job, I was never the employee of the month. I would never win that prize simply because I would sit at my desk and always be thinking of a master plan. I wanted to get away from the plantation. And I don't think it was as cognizant of a thought pattern that I knew that I was an entrepreneur. I kind of felt different than everybody else because when I would look at stuff, I would try to figure out the angle for how to make more money. But, you know, 20 years ago, we didn't have Gary Vaynerchuk sitting around on videos every day encouraging people to leave their job and become entrepreneurs. It really wasn't like the thing to do. The thing to do was to get a good job, retire, and take care of your family. But I always was thinking about how can I get off this job, you know? And one day I had an idea. A friend comes to me and he's like, yo, you got great credit. So why don't we use your credit? And I don't have, you know, he was like a hustler, right? I'm not saying he was a hustler, but he would hustle. He was always, you know, into something, making some money. So when he came to me, he was like, we'll use your credit. We'll buy a house and we'll flip it and we'll make like 10 grand. And I'm like, yeah, really? What do I have to do? He's like, no, you don't have to do anything because you're at work. I'll handle all the legwork in terms of getting the property and, you know, prepared to flip. We'll go out, we'll find a spot and we'll flip it. I'm like, wow, that's cool. No problem. I'm in, you know, 10 grand sound great. Here's the house, you know, it was a bad property, right? Inside of a bad neighborhood. And we took that house and we fixed that house up. And it ended up costing me a lot of money. And I remember we took out a third-party loan on it. So we already had the regular loan, and we took another loan to make the housing improvements. And I was like, dude, seriously, we're in for a lot of money right now. He's like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He called me up a couple of months later, took about a couple of months, and that house ended up looking like this. So we had put the new yard in. Everything was ready to go. We're ready to put this thing on the market. And mind you, man, I'm on my job at this time. I'm making about $50,000, you know, a year. That was decent money to me back in the, 2000. I'm like, man, yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
That's
and I
right.
got good credit, you know? But here's the thing, that house sat empty way longer than it should in a bad neighborhood. So this picture that I'm showing you is actually what they did to that house after I had bought it, after I had renovated it. It sat so long that they came and they ripped everything out. And I was the guy on the hook. You know, yeah, we were partners, but when it came to the mortgage and all the money parts, the only name on that paper was mine. And I was feeling like this guy, man. You ever just have it where the water is just up to your nose and you barely can breathe? And that's where I was, man. I literally was preparing myself for bankruptcy. And then I had a little thought. I'm like, well, you know, I've been selling these little things on eBay. What if I could get repeatable items, right? And so one of the first things I started selling repeatably online were books. And literally, I tell people today, if you're getting started, books and media, when I say media, that can be, you know, DVDs. Yeah, that's kind of a little flaky on Amazon, but on eBay, you still can do some DVDs. You can do used music, but used books. I don't know why, but they continually sell and they have value. Now, some of them can be, if you find the right one, it can be a lot of money. Other ones are junk and garbage. But the cool thing about books, of course, is that you can scan the back and you can see how much that book is actually worth. So I started selling books online. And here's the thing, I actually thought I had a business. So I jumped out there, man. I really got into it. And this is the problem. And I don't know if you see the video, but it's a funny video simply because the cat is jumping out and it's trying to do what it's not really prepared to do. So even though I had all of these books, I never realized that that was not necessarily a business yet. That was a money-making hobby, right? It was a money-making, I wouldn't even call it I wouldn't even call it a money-making hobby because I'm past the hobby level, but I've created a new job for myself. And I called it a business, but it really wasn't a full-fledged business because if I wasn't working, the business wasn't working. It required me to go to work every day. So it was great because I created my own job, but it was not a business because a business runs on systems. I could never sell this so-called business that I had because if I didn't come with the business, there was no business. So that's one of the things you've got to think about in your business is where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And never how do you want to say it? I don't want you to aggrandize yourself into thinking that you are more than you actually are, right? Because if you don't have systems in your business, then it's not yet a business, which is cool. I love people having their own jobs and creating their own way, you know? But if you want something that's going to have some legacy, you're going to have to pull yourself out of it at some point and let somebody else run it so that you as the business founder can move forward with growing. And growth in the business versus working in the business are two totally separate things, and they take a lot of time. And doing them both at the same time. What'd you say?
Very true. Very true. You're
Right?
absolutely right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's a unique phase that you have to go through. And we'll talk about this going forward. But one of the things is I listen to, and a lot of us will listen to a lot of podcasts and training and stuff. And I always think about this saying from Bill Gates. He said, it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. I think we spend way too much time, especially on podcasts, especially in e-commerce area of podcasts, listening to stories of success. And stories of success go about this far from bringing you where you are to the next level. Stories of failure telling you where the potholes are so that you can avoid them on your way to success will take you much further. If I sit with somebody, one of the first questions I ask, from peers and people that are, mentors to me, it's like, tell me some of the things you really screwed up, because I can learn a whole lot from that versus, I did this and I was successful, and I did this and I was successful. It's like, okay, yeah, really, that doesn't give me my pathway necessarily to success unless I want to take the actual path you took. However, if you're telling me about certain potholes are they're often not all that unique in business.
True.
The potholes in business are usually not unique. So if you get people to give you the problem areas, you will be able to avoid those and make your success even better. Anyway, I started my business. I already had started selling books. I'm working in my business. I'm planting the seeds for success at this point. So one day I'm in a Waffle House, and trust me, all of this is going to make sense later, right? So one day I'm in a Waffle House and I'm having breakfast, and me and my partner are sitting there and we're having breakfast, and the sales circulars is sitting in front of us. Right now, probably don't even remember this. These are called newspapers. That's what we used to have. Yeah, right. Before cell phones, we had newspapers that had all these sales circulars. The deal was, during this time in the early, 2000s, it would give you a whole lot of doorbusters that were doorbuster specials, almost like Black Friday every day. And it was because there were these office supply stores that were in competition, right? And they would give you, like, come in and you can get 100 CDs for free after rebate. I used to buy these 100 stacks, 500 stacks, all of these kind of products, and I would break them up and then sell them 5, 10, 25 packs on eBay. That was me now moving from, the individual phase to where I'm actually able to do repeatables. See, these are the phases that my business went through, where a lot of you guys now are starting. They didn't have words like online arbitrage or retail arbitrage. I didn't even know nothing about that, but I'm doing retail arbitrage now with repeatables, right? But I'm getting them free. Free is the best thing you could ever get. So these are free after rebate items. I'm breaking them up and selling them. I'm like, dude, we're rolling now. We're rocking and rolling in our little business. And it's starting to get where every Sunday we know, look in the paper, we'd map out which stores we were going to go to. I live in the Atlanta area, so we have a large suburb area, and I would drive all around, and we would pick up these free after rebate items. Retail arbitrage, right? Next phase, it's like, we want to move up. We want to make more money than just 5 and 10 nickel and diamond on the CDs. Here comes inkjet printers. Inkjet printers were fantastic. And when they first started using inkjets, what they would do is they would give you an inkjet printer free after rebate. Why would they give it to you for free? It's because the drug is actually the ink cartridges, right? So everybody would get a free printer because they knew they could sell you the ink ongoing. Brilliant business model. If you don't understand that kind of a business model, that's the same business model really that Prime is built on, right? They'll give you free Prime, right? During certain times, they'll reduce the price of Prime. They'll give you 14 days free, just to test it out, because they want to get you hooked on the drug, right? And the drug for Prime is free delivery, right?
That's right.
Well, right? So
That's
the
right.
drug for inks or inkjet printers were the ink. So they give you the printer free after rebate. Once you have the printer, you have to buy the ink. You're not going to buy a new printer. You just buy the ink. So I used to get these printers, and I would open the box, and I would take the printer out because it came with a set of inks inside. It would have a starter set of inks inside. I would take the ink, since that was the drug, and I would sell the ink, And then I would close the box back up and sell it, not new, but I would sell it new open box with no ink.
No way.
No ink, right? So basically I was making my money back almost 100% from the printer itself. And then the ink would be extra cash, right? I don't even know if there's a model for that. But, you know, I wasn't bundling, I was bundle breaking.
Breaking. That's right.
I was breaking the bundle and selling the individual parts. All right, so now my seeds are starting to turn into seedlings. I'm moving forward into the mindset of having an actual business. And then one day, this might be a little bit of luck, but I'm watching and this Tickle Me Elmo doll comes out. You guys know right now, it's already either in it or it's already passed. The first pass of in-demand toy products have hit the shelves for fourth quarter sales for Christmas. When this Tickle Me Elmo hit in September, they sold out immediately. Sold out immediately. There was already buzz on the street that this was going to be the toy of the Christmas season. And if you have never rode a toy of the Christmas season, that is, oh my gosh, the frenzy is absolutely insane. So the deal was I already had all of these relationships with my vendors at different, you know, stores around the Atlanta area. So I called them up. I said, man, look, next time you get Tickle Me Elmo in, call me that day. I'll be over. I'm coming to get them, right? And so they weren't able to hold any for me, but what they were able to do was let me know as soon as they hit the shelves. And I rode around the city of Atlanta and I got an entire van full of Tickle Me Elmos. These dolls were like $32 a piece, right? Retail. I held that van in my garage, did not touch it until about 3 weeks before Christmas. And I was selling Tickle Me Elmos, buy it now on eBay for $300 a piece. Literally. That's how crazy the frenzy got. People were paying $300. I just held on to it, kept holding until people started running out. And then the price went sky high, right? You know, hey, I still had the receipt.
Worst case, right?
Right? I mean, it wasn't really all that much at risk, but this is probably why a lot of you guys get receipt stuff now, and you got to get it turned in within 30 days or you can't get your money back. It's because people like me, right? So anyway, I took that money and that profit, and I rolled that into something even higher margin. I started selling Dell computers, all right? And I started selling Dell computers from the Dell website. So they have a website, you can go out there today even, it's like Dell Outlet. Anytime somebody sends a laptop back, they will refurb it and put it back out there. Same warranty, but it's called a refurb now because somebody had it before. But usually there's nothing wrong with them. Maybe a cosmetic scratch, but you can go out there and do that. So we was flipping Dells like crazy online. Matter of fact, we became the #1 Dell seller of computers on eBay. Literally, we were #1 because every time you would put in Dell, our ads came up. And Dell was selling them on there as well. So here's the deal. Dell got a little bit frustrated with trying to deal with us because, I'm scrappy. I'm a hustler. I already know the eBay system. I've been doing it for a long time. They've got people sitting in offices, don't know what they're doing. They got pissed, and they sent me a cease and desist, which a lot of you guys are going through right now. Cease and desist from a brand. They sent me a cease and desist. They couldn't stop me from selling their used computers on eBay, but what they sent me was a cease and desist for the pictures. I would use their picture of their computer that I paid full price for, and they got an attitude. So I had to start taking my own pictures. Once I started taking my own pictures, we lost ranking very quickly because it didn't look uniform like all the other ones that they were selling. So
Right.
this is a picture of it sitting on my desk that I would take versus, their little picture, which I could have put together probably a decent picture like that. But, I was like, so we're still selling them, but we were not number one. And I got really frustrated. Matter of fact, I got pissed. And so what I wanted to do, since we were still number one in terms of when you come up and you type in Dell, our ads would come up. I wanted to shame Dell, right? And so I know that's kind of bad. But what I decided to do is I decided I was going to put a scantily clad, because I didn't want to get thrown off the system. So I'm going to put a scantily clad woman in front of their thing. So when somebody would type in Dell, they would get this, And I'm like, how do you like that for your brand, Dell? Here's the deal. Our final value prices went up by 20%. 20%.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. That's when I've recognized that sex sells. Sex
Indeed.
sells. Not sex, straight sex, but I mean, like, if it's sexy, it sells. And I guess totally by accident that I learned that actually works. I never knew why you always have to put, certain people on a commercial, just because attractiveness can sell. And it ended up really being good for our business. But one thing I learned from that is when we got hit with the cease and desist, the first thing you have to do is you got to be calm. You got to walk away, take some time, and then be consistent on the things that you can deliver. We could always deliver a better customer experience than Dell could because we knew the system better than they did, right? So think about it, but don't run off the rails as soon as something, goes crazy. Because what happens is you start picking up your hammer. And the problem with picking up a hammer is that everything else becomes a nail.
Yeah.
So, every solution does not require you to go grab a hammer and just, beat the shit out of a problem. What you have to do is you have to go back in and start really stepping back and thinking about the situation and doing some critical thinking, because you are the entrepreneur. You're the one that got yourself there. You're the one that built that business. I believe that the day that the entrepreneur walks away from the business completely changes, right? I mean, Apple is not the same company after it lost its founder. Jeff Bezos, Amazon will not be the same company after he leaves. We are the vision that keeps the engine moving in that direction. We are that thing right now, especially in a business like ours, that even though we might have somebody or some people working for us on our teams, we are still the visionary drivers of that business. And if you lose that vision, you're going to lose profits. Speaking of profits, right? Let me give you the profit ladder. And this is, I don't care what business you're in, this is how everybody makes more profit. You get leads, you multiply your leads by the conversion rate. Now, the usually conversion rate on e-commerce, if it's a regular not brick and mortar, but a regular website, it's between 3 and 5%. That's one of the things. If you don't know what your conversion averages are compared to the averages of the industry, it will give you unclear vision. I know people right now that are making 3% and they think that their business is lacking. And I'm like, dude, if you're doing 3%, you're right in the sweet spot of e-commerce, because that's how small the conversion rate is for an e-commerce site. Just if you're thinking, man, everybody is doing probably like 50% of the people that come. No, that's not right. So you got to know not only what your rates are, conversion rate is, but you need to know what the industry is so that you know where you are in line with what is pretty much standard. All right. So leads times conversion rate equals your customer. Customers times the number of transaction equals the average dollar sale of the customers, right? So sometimes people think you need more customers. You might not need more customers. You just might need your customer to come back and purchase from you one more time in a year.
That's right.
That's how you grow a business. So it's not always about dropping more leads into the funnel. It might be going back to that same person that purchased from you, that's already give money to you, that's already trusted in your brand, and asking them to make one more purchase. If 20% of all of your customers came back and purchased from you one more time, you would up your bottom and top line by almost 20%. That's a 20% increase on the year. But we kind of overlook that because we're always worried about getting more people to buy the thing. But you got to start thinking about how to get my customer to come back. All right. So that's the number of transactions, dollar sale value. Dollar sale value is also up. It's supersizing, right? You go to McDonald's. Do you want to, well, I don't know if they still do that because of the movie, right? But they usually, you want large, you want to upsize that. Yes, you got to think about ways to supersize. That's right. Yeah, so you remember that. Supersize me. So you want to think about how can you add something to the product that you already have that would supersize the cart value. So instead of checking out if my average cart value is $25, is there a $5 or a $10 item that goes along with that I could offer to them at checkout so that they purchase that as well, upping my cart size. All right. So the average dollar size is your revenue. And of course, your revenue times your margins equals your profit. You got $100 in revenue times your $20 or 20% margin, your profit is $20. That's the profit ladder. Fantastic. So I'm learning all of this stuff now. And my seedling has now grown into an actual tree. I'm growing. I'm growing like, crazy. And here is the part. I don't know how to say this the right way other than study the 1%. I find people spend a lot of time studying the 99%, studying the average guy. I think that's one of the fallacies of having Facebook groups, is you sitting there and you're listening to, that's not the 1% you're listening to. The 1% are not your peers. The 1% are the people that have gone way above and beyond. There's a difference, guys, between knowledge and wisdom. All right. You can go into your Facebook group and get a lot of knowledge, but knowledge is not wisdom. In 2013, I don't know if they still even do this at this thing, but they would have a lunch with Warren Buffett. And the last time that I looked at it, it went for $178,000. Literally, to spend an hour with Warren Buffett, people would pay over $100,000 just to spend an hour with him. Why? What are you going to get from Warren Buffett? You're going to get wisdom. Wisdom can only be gleaned from having knowledge applied over and over. So just because somebody said, hey, I tried this and it worked, well, it's like, okay, that's good knowledge. Well, is it going to work in 5 years? Well, if it works in 5 years, that becomes sort of wisdom. That's the difference. Knowledge versus wisdom. Knowledge is something you know. Wisdom is something that you know that's been applied over and over again. And it's got a long history of being able to do what it's able to do. And so what a lot of us get in trouble sometimes is that we hear, oh, you should do X, Y, Z because we heard it from a Facebook group. Really? Wow. Is that the best place for you to get your knowledge? No, probably not. You need to start studying the most successful out there. If you want to be great, study greatness, not just some guy that made up some black hat way for you to get the buy box. Because 90% of the times, I'm going to say 80% of the times, it's either going to go away or it's going to get your account in trouble.
Yeah, you're going to get blacklisted. You're at it.
You'll get blacklisted. And that's the worst thing in the world.
That's right.
That's never worth the extra 10% bump you get for 6 months, ever. All right? So Albert Einstein says, wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. And the longer you go around this sun, I've been around this sun a lot of times. So every year you go around the sun and you celebrate a birthday. And you think it's a day, but it's really not a day. It's actually a period in time based on the going around the sun of the earth. So it's not just time per se, it's actually a physical thing that happens every year. And your birthday is the exact same space in space where the earth is in relation to the sun. Why does that excite me? I don't know, but it really makes me go like, damn, my birthday is really important. All right.
You're part of the solar system, John.
It is part of the solar system. And it's like, it goes on. And the longer you go around the sun, the more wisdom you get. That's simple and plain.
Right.
While you're young,
That's right.
hustle is your friend. Why? Because you're youthful. You've got your facilities. You're in the best shape of your life. That's when you hustle. When you get to my age, you depend on wisdom, because I can't run as fast as the young guy anymore. I can't hustle the same way. I have to use my wisdom now that I've got from being on that damn earth move around the sun. Anyway.
And speaking, and I see this slide, it's really interesting what you said earlier, and I think we need to reiterate this point for our audience. Mediocrity begets mediocrity. You're absolutely right. If you want to make it, everybody's aspirational, but they don't realize what are the steps. Everything is a process. And I think what you're defining for everybody here so well is that it's a process, folks. Learn it, master it.
Yeah, mastery is the process.
Correct.
Yeah, and I just see a lot of things that are just very mediocre put out there as a secret, right? And then you look and you got to think about the 80-20 rule, guys. I mean, the 80-20 rule is applied everywhere. Like right now, 80% of the people that are like mentoring other people or creating groups or all of that, 80% of them will be out of business. That's just, that's that. Trust me, I grew up with a whole lot of eBay bigwigs. 80% of them gone, evaporated, right? So you're in it for the long haul. Look at this statement right here. I am the greatest. Everybody knows, if you just say, who said I am the greatest? Everybody knows Muhammad Ali. That's just right. Worldwide, right? But he said that even before he knew he was great. Even he is now the greatest. After his death, they call him the greatest. But when he said, I am the greatest, they called him crazy. They got, that guy's nuts, right? What was that? What was that made this man say that he was the greatest and then live up to being historically the greatest? It was all about his mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset. What is it about mindset? There is a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. There's only two mindsets. And then this is not something I made up. So if you think there's a third one, don't come bitching at me. I didn't make this up, right? But you have to really think about it, because you can see it in people that you might hang out with. Are they in a growth mindset, or do they have a fixed mindset? Here's some examples. In a growth mindset, failure is an opportunity for you to grow. In a fixed mindset, failure is the limit of my abilities. I can learn to do anything I want if I'm in a growth mindset. If I'm in a fixed mindset, I'm either good at it or I'm not, And a lot of times, these people with fixed mindset can be very close to you. My mother, I remember when I was talking about leaving the job, starting a business, her fixed mindset would not allow her to support me. Her fixed mindset was always fixated on why I wouldn't do it, why I wouldn't work, why I wouldn't make it. And she wasn't trying to do that. She was definitely trying to discourage me, but she wasn't trying to discourage me out of jealousy or hurt. She wanted me to avoid pain because in her mind, she thought I was headed for disaster. But that's because she lives in a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. When I was like, dude, nothing can stop me. I know I'm going to make it. Not only do I know I'm going to make it, I know I'm going to overcome any obstacle that is set in my path. A lot of people are not willing to overcome obstacle. When we talk about 80% of the people that will fail, they will fail at an obstacle and finally give up.
That's right. That's
right?
That's true.
You
That's
can
very
only
true.
fail when you give up.
I
Go
think
ahead.
the entrepreneur's essence is resilience. You're absolutely right. You got to be resilient. You can't be an entrepreneur.
You can't,
No,
because somebody's going to
true.
kick some dirt in your face.
Inevitably, yes. and
Over and
once.
over again.
And more than once. That's right.
That's right. That's right. What you've got to be is you've got to be not only resilient, you've got to thrive off of that. When I was talking about being and feeling like I was drowning, that's when I came up with the best ideas. It's hard I tell people that the greatest motivator often is a foot in your backside. There's nothing that can, I mean, today I can, run. But when I got somebody kicking me in the butt, I run even faster. And it's hard to duplicate that. But at any rate, mindset is everything. Are we good? We good? I know Absolutely. I'm at about 40 minutes, yeah?
No, we're good. We're good. Keep going, John.
Okay.
I'm loving this.
So here's the thing, guys.
I'm sure as our audience.
Here's what you might not know. We all think that we're free thinkers, but we're actually not. 45% of our decisions are only made consciously. That leaves the other 55% are unconscious decisions, meaning that we're pre-programmed. So we're talking about mindset. Part of that mindset is to change your mind so that when you're making decisions, you're doing it out of habit, because 55% of our decisions are made out of pure habit, and we don't even know that they are. So this is where I'll introduce something to you called the habit loop. And the habit loop requires three things. It requires a trigger, the habit that you're going to do, and then the reward, which is the reason why you did it. So just remember that. The routine is the habit, and the reward. There's this thing called the board mouse. I think you can look up board mouse, and it's a test that they did, and they hardwired a mouse, right? They put wires on its brain, and they were measuring brain activity. It didn't look like this. I just got that picture because I thought it looked cool. And what it would do is they would put a mouse into a trap, a maze trap. And it was a very simple maze. It was a maze that was formulated in a T, all right? I don't know if you can see my hands, but make it a small T down across, let's say a cross. It was a cross maze, right? So the first position that they put the cheese in was at the top of the cross, all right, inside the maze. And what they had was a door in front of the maze so that the mouse would sit in a little compartment, and it had a door that it would raise up and let the mouse into the maze when it used a trigger. So it would make a sound, open the door, let the mouse run. The mouse would immediately run looking for the cheese. Since the cheese was right in front of them on the T maze, boom, it would find the cheese, it would get its reward. So now you had all three parts. You had the cue, which was a noise that it would make. You have the routine, which is after the noise, the door lifts, you can go get the cheese. You get to the cheese, you get rewarded. And they'd monitor the brain cells on the mouse so they could see when the mouse was using its brain. Over time, they did this over and over and over again, cheese in the same place. Suddenly, they recognized that the mouse didn't use any of its brain cells. Not any of it, but most of its brain cells were not firing anymore. It was doing it by habit. It was the routine.
Muscle memory, yeah.
Totally, right? Here's the deal. They took the cheese and moved it. Remember, we're on a cross. They moved it from up to the top over to the left. So to the far left of that cross maze. Now, what would happen was when they fired it off, they're watching the brain move, and Immediately, no brain activity, mouse goes to the top. Once it gets to the top and the cheese is not there, all of a sudden, brain activity starts. Massive brain. It's running back, up, back, because it can smell the cheese, but it doesn't know where it is. Finally, it makes a left. So then they reset the trap, do it all over again. After time, no more thinking. It would automatically run up and to the left. Then they moved it to the right. And what do you think happened? Same thing. Brain activity, ultimately no brain activity. What that showed them was that you could train the brain, because you train the brain to do a routine, but the second thing was that you were able to retrain the brain on the exact same, or on doing the exact same triggers to do a different routine. So when it moved the cheese to the upper left, the brain had to be retrained. Ultimately, it do it over and over again. And then suddenly you didn't need the brain anymore. You would do it by habit. And that is how we've learned that you can train your brain to have better habits. All right. So here's another saying: what we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but it's a habit. So the deal is, I think entrepreneurs are born, but great business people are made. Entrepreneurs are born, but great business people are made. You're going to have to retrain your brain to not think like everybody else. And that's one of the things you'll learn by studying the 1%, because most of the 1% have written books about how they got to where they are. And even though they're not selling Amazon crap, I'm saying it funny, right? But the fact is, their success and the way that they think is way more important than how to source a product. If you can figure out how these guys think and spend some of your time studying those guys and their success, you will have more success in any business that you're working on. And that's how you train to replace bad habits with good habits. And I'm going to give you a quick example. I don't know if you remember these things. They were called Tamagotchis. And if you're a millennial, you remember playing with it. And if you're old as me, you remember buying it for your kid. And these Tamagotchis were fantastic. When I point this out, you'll be like, oh, I get it. Because the Tamagotchi would make a stupid noise, and all of a sudden you had to push the button to feed it. And then you had to push the button to make it go to sleep. And kids learn habits from those noises. So as soon as a noise was made, they knew to check the device to see what was needed from it. Guess who took that to the next level? Texting, messaging. Our phone. Why do you think our phone? You ever listen to the sound that your phone makes when the battery's about to go? It sounds like it's dying. Right? It sounds like it's dying. They took that same concept, and it's already pre-programmed in our brains because we played with the Tamagotchi growing up. And that's why we are so stuck on this phone. And every time it makes a noise, you're checking it, because you're going to see if you're going to have to push the button until it gets fed, and this is what we do. And if you want to change that habit, you're going to have to go through a routine to change that habit, because you don't want your phone disrupting your day every time. So anyway, once your tree grows up, right, it starts making fruit, and it's that fruit. That fruit is probably the most important thing, because inside of the fruit is what? It's the seed to make the new tree. It's the growth. That's how you're going to grow your business, is by moving it to another place and replanting the seeds. But in order to do that, you're going to have to protect the fruit, because there are little rodents out there. And this rodent is the one that was eating my peach tree. One day I had peaches and they were ready to go, and I didn't go out there and pick the peaches. And the next day, literally, I came out and the freaking squirrels had ate up all the ripe peaches, all of them. There was not one, and that's the way it is in the competition in the business, man. It's just like that. There's always somebody around waiting to eat your ripe fruit. And if the freaking squirrels don't get it, the freaking deer will. And that's the deer eating the rest of my fruit, you know, because literally they'll eat it while it's still green. So guys, I want to sum some stuff up. Whatever you're doing, try to stay in your lane so you get mastery. You want to avoid the habit loop that we're in with social media of being all over the place. If you stay in your lane and you master that lane, you will find great success. Great success. We talk about Jeff Bezos. People thought he was crazy when he talked about the everything store, but he stayed in his lane. He never, ever was just going to be a bookstore. That was the beginning of what he wanted to do. And you see where he is today, right? But he does stay in his lane. And if he ever gets out of his lane, he gets back in. He's testing constantly. Amazon tests constantly, but they fail absolutely fast. I think nobody even remembers the Amazon phone. What a piece of crap brick that ended up being for them. But they got in and got back out. Remember that? All right. I'm going to skip this, all right, because we're going pretty far in. But one part about mindset, just think about doing these things, and I call it metacognitive thinking. I'll go back just because it's metacognition cycle. It's the thinking about thinking. So when you're doing stuff and you're testing stuff, think about, have I done this before? Before you get started in doing it, have I done this before? What are my existing strengths and strategies that I can apply to it? What are some of the weaknesses? You know, you want to think about it before you get into it, and then set your goals about what you actually want to achieve. While you're doing that, in the process of working through whatever it is you're trying to get into, realize you're in trial and error phase, right? So reflect, is this strategy actually working? Can I change anything right now to make it work better? And am I hitting my goals that I set before, which are my KPIs, right? So then after, what worked well? You want to start thinking about that. What can I improve or alter? Can I create a workflow from this so that it becomes repeatable? And what can I apply that I learned in this phase to other tasks? And why I like this, because right now in before phase is where we are right now with our fourth quarter, right? We're thinking about exactly how we're going to sell as much as we can for that time between, you know, Black Friday and Christmas. And during that Black Friday and Christmas, we'll be in the during phase. And then right after that, guys, I take off Christmas Day. I get right back to work on the 26th. On the 26th, that day is my day for after. I sit down and make an entire note of my Christmas season and what worked, what didn't, what could I improve, what could I turn into a workflow. And I do it right then when it's very, very clear in my head.
Very fresh,
and then I file those notes away because I don't need them again until July. But if I try to do it in July, August, September, I won't remember exactly the way I would right after. So that is what your new goal has to be. On the 26th, start identifying exactly what worked. Make yourself some notes for you later on. All right, 5 key takeaways. Mindset is everything. Keep calm. Stay consistent. Study the 1% so you can seek out that wisdom. Opportunity is taken, not given, right? Nobody gives you opportunity. You take opportunity when it's presented. And finally, stay in your lane. There you go. That's my thing.
Well, this is wonderful, John. You know, you're absolutely right. I think some of the key points that you made, and actually all of them, are extremely relevant. And what you just said was the ability to introspect. I think that is so important. Analyze, 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 and replicate. And I think a lot of times people don't realize, they think it's easy. It isn't. It's tough. And you got to have that edge, and you got to be able to think cerebrally, not just react, but you got to be proactive. And
absolutely, man.
You bring up those points really very clearly. So I have a few
Cool.
questions, which I'm sure your audience will want to try to get your knowledge and your input and your feedback. The first one is, what are the three most critical elements for an e-commerce startup?
Okay. Critical, I think, is having a good product, of course, a product you believe in, especially if you're getting started. You don't want to start with something, I know a lot of people that started uh, uh, with things they didn't necessarily 100% believe in. And that ended up kind of biting them because they went through a lot of trial that they didn't have to go through. It doesn't have to be, sexy. Doesn't have to be something that's literally expensive, but it has to just be something that that when that customer gets it, you feel good about it and it's going to work and it's going to do as promised. The next thing is you have to identify exactly who your audience is. Exactly. If you sell to everybody, you're selling to nobody. That is so important because the deal is you're going to write, descriptions and titles and things like that. And if you're writing for everyone, then you end up missing everyone
That's
because
right.
nobody wants something that's for everybody. Guess what they want? They want something for me. So if you understand me, then you'll understand how to write your content so that it appeals directly to me and it actually tells everybody else that's not a good customer, don't even bother. So that's number two. Let's see. And the third one is, uh, uh, I think, frictionless payments. Don't make me jump through a lot of hoops to pay you.
Make
If
it
you can,
simple.
the more ways that you can get money from people, implement them, right? Yeah, I remember when I got started a long time ago, man, people would send me cash in the mail. You think I used to be like, well, we don't take cash? Hell no. I was, because of that it has to be frictionless for
Right.
people to pay you. They need to trust you. And the way you do that is just giving them as many options as, your platform will allow. I get it. If you're on Amazon, you're not allowed to take a lot of different payments, but whatever it is, and we'll talk about another one in a minute. So go ahead.
Sounds good. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Second question, John. How did you come to a decision with regards to which product or products to sell? You kind of alluded to this earlier, but I think a recap will be great.
Yeah, when I first looked at products, and I mean, I gave you a short a look into what I did, but my first products were actually what I used to call them hip hop gear, right? And it wasn't the clothing, but it was everything else that went along with the hip hop squad. Because I was young at the time, and I was doing hip hop, and that was my whole world, and all the things that I knew about were hip hop. So it was easy for me when I saw sweatbands, bandanas, bling jewelry, earrings. I just knew it. I knew my customer very well. I knew what they were into, and it made it very easy for me to select product.
Absolutely. Understand your customer, right? You got
Understand.
it. Absolutely. How did you, so this is what we hear constantly from our customers. They're trying to figure out how do you come up with the price? How do you finalize a price for the goods that you're selling?
you know, pricing is pricing is a science. Pricing is a science. And we've got so much information available to us,
Hmm.
which is both a good and bad thing. I mean, you
Right.
can go and you can see on the platforms, or just do a Google search of a product and see what customers are paying on average. And you can create an average priced product. Average priced products bring average people, right? So
Right.
is that where you want to be? I don't know. Maybe your product is just an average product and you're going to put a white label on it and you're just going to look to get inside of the pricing space that feels comfortable. However, trust me, Lamborghini is not trying to create a car that is for the average customer. And they create a premium product for a premium price for premium customers.
Mhm.
Apple, $1,100
That's
for a phone.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, I mean, give me a break. It's got 3 cameras now. Ooh, oh, I'll need that. You know? But what they have created, they don't create phones. They create experiences.
Experiences, you got it.
And their
That's right.
customers all about the experience. There are people dying to have the $1,100 phone just for the experience of saying, I got the new iPhone. So you got to think about where you want to be, because your pricing says everything about you as a company. It really does. So you can do all of these. I'm not saying, but one of the things that I always do is test my pricing. So make it go. And the best test is raising it.
Right.
So many people are scared to raise their prices. I've had product that was not selling at a low price. I raised it, and all of a sudden it started
Lo and
selling.
behold, right? And it just
Right. Because people think, hey, it might be more better than that other product just because it's cost more. It must be better.
That's right.
That's the way we think.
That's right.
Anyway,
true.
Pricing is a science.
What are the best ways to build customer trust for your
Oh,
products?
great. Especially, so think about it, guys. We are in a industry where the customer can't smell, taste, or touch the product.
That's right.
So one of the best ways to make people trust you is your return experience. 1,000%. You think that Amazon, people don't know this, and I'm going to give you some history. People do, but they don't think about it. Amazon's return policy was not Amazon's. Amazon's return policy was from a company that was kicking Amazon's ass in shoes. Amazon would beat everybody. They were beating everybody in all these industries, but they could not beat Zappos. They were so struggling with Zappos that they ended up having to purchase them.
That's right.
And when they purchased Zappos, here's what they did. They kept the culture of Zappos intact. And part of Zappos' cultural intact methodology was
ethos as well.
Right, was 1 year, no questions asked, return on shoes. And that became part of Amazon's return policy.
That's right.
Because once they realized the reason why they were beating us is because they were able to do this 1 year return. That was one of the biggest reasons. So if you want people to trust you, give them a very liberal return policy. And believe it or not, the longer you have something, here's the thing. I went to Zappos. If you go to Vegas, you can tour Zappos. You just call them up, say, I want to come over and tour. They'll let you tour, right? And they'll talk to you about their culture. One of the things I remember on the tour was they said that when they implemented this, they got less returns. Their return percentages went down. Why? And they can't tell you exactly why, because you have to be in people's head. He said, but one of the reasons is when you hold it for so long, the urgency to return it is gone. If you got a 14-day return policy, then I got to get it done. I got to get it done, right? But if you got a whole year, you'll be 6 months, 8 months, you'll be like, screw it. I'll just keep it.
That's right. You got uncomfortable. You've broken it in, right? So, and part of it is that too. And I think this kind of goes back to Nordstrom's roots. I mean, they're just, I mean, they became what they are. It's because of like you said, it's all about the customer. Take care of them, they'll take care of you.
Yes,
you're absolutely
it's
right.
all about the customer. There is no business without the customer.
Absolutely. So now this comes to a very Amazon-specific question, and I'm sure you've heard this time and time again, and you probably, trying to figure this out yourself. How do you decide between FBA and FBM? And for the uninitiated in the audience, if you're filled by Amazon, whether you're going to have Amazon keep your product and move the product for you, transport the product for you, get it to the customer, or would you do it yourself, take the delivery options and everything yourself?
So my business was built around self-fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 100%, I was out there way before Amazon even existed, or FBA rather, not Amazon, but FBA existed. So we had built our business with shipping, our own products to customers. I was dragged into FBA kicking and screaming only when I had to, because you're giving away 30% of your profits, but I don't think success on Amazon as a platform can be had any longer with, or let me say the major success and growth. I don't think it can be had without using FBA. FBA, if you really think about it, there are 100 million people now, over 100, probably 150 million people that are FBA Prime members, right? And they don't take product from anybody else.
That's right.
If
You
it's
kind of
not
they even
FBA,
select, right? You just select Prime,
you
and
don't even
that's
have
it.
to select it. I'm
Yeah,
not even looking at anything
right. That's
if the
right.
dang badge is not there.
That's right.
They've been already trained. They've been habit trained
That's right.
to
There you
have
go.
their product in 2 days.
That's right.
And they're not checking you. They're
Right.
not checking you. So you're losing some market share. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to determine, if I'm going to be an Amazon on that platform, then more than likely, if you can make FBA work, it's going to cut into your margins.
Right.
But if you can make it work, it'll hopefully increase your velocity, which
Right.
will make up for the margins that are in decrease. And you got to do that.
Yeah, translate to more sales. Absolutely. You're right. You got it.
Yep.
This is an interesting one. Recently there's a lot of talk about, obviously there's the issues that are happening between China and the US, and China being the world's factory and all. How are the Trump tariffs, what kind of impact are they having on sellers and this whole Amazon process?
I was just in China 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Just got back 2 weeks ago, right? And dude, it is thick. You can feel the tension between the US and China right now. I don't necessarily see that getting a whole lot better right now. It doesn't feel like we're at the precipice of an agreement. It is definitely concerning for them, and it's concerning for you guys. And most of you guys, I think this is an e-commerce event, but most of you guys are probably doing Amazon. And I'm going to tell you what Amazon's doing. All right? I'm going to give you an Amazon answer. I went to Amazon. I don't think they even did it this year. Last year, Amazon did a seller event in New Orleans. I'll never forget the air conditioning didn't work. People were passing out. It was crazy. Did you go? Have you heard about this?
No, actually, we didn't go to that one. No.
Okay, but you heard about it, and I don't think they did it this year. I don't even think they did it. But here's the deal: that was about 3,500 Amazon sellers here in the U.S. that went to this event. They had, like 4 months later, they had the same event for Chinese sellers. 10,000 Chinese sellers showed up. Amazon is building their entire logistics system. If you are confused thinking that they're doing it just for me and you are missing the entire puzzle. They're building planes and trucks to move stuff from China to the US and directly to their warehouse. Amazon is always been about removing the middle. Moving friction. And most of us that are doing product in China are just middlemen. We're not really adding a whole lot of value. And so as the system gets worse and worse, let's say with the China-US relationships, that makes it really, really attractive for Amazon to step in and make it easy for those factories to do direct consumer sales. And trust me, that is way more dangerous in terms of what China means to us than any of this stuff between the tariffs. You have to see behind it. So the tariffs, that's on the top. That's something. But I'm telling you, if your business is dependent on just slapping a label on something in China, get your resume ready. 10 years from now, you're going to be working for somebody else.
So there's got to be value add. You got to be unique. I mean,
you got to add value.
That's right.
Yeah, because that's true too. Because iPhones are made in China,
that's
right? But it's their own product.
That's right.
So it can't be just something you're slapping a label on. Try to find ways to add value by bundling, packaging, experience, customer support. All of those are ways to do it. So I think that is your best bet to, avoid any of the competition problems, and then also have a second option for manufacturing. Start looking around, guys. Start going to other shows. There's other shows besides the China show.
Right.
There's India shows. There's South America shows. There's all kinds of shows. You can get
Vietnam,
stuff,
you're
Africa
absolutely right.
shows,
That's
Vietnam, absolutely.
right.
So there's a lot of places you can get products made for low cost. Yay.
Perfect. Well, there's one last question,
Okay.
and I really appreciate your time. This is wonderful, John. I'm sure our audience is loving it and lapping it up. We keep talking about cryptos, right? Everybody knows, so the question is, where's Bitcoin and where are we with regards to crypto and receiving and getting payments and setting that up as one of your options? You talked about making it easy for your customers. So I was curious, what are your thoughts on that?
So Bitcoin is kind of stalled, but crypto as payment is going to happen. It's just about when, and it's also about who. I think Bitcoin has been around long enough now that it's solidified itself as a player. I don't know if it's going to be the player,
Right.
but the simple fact that Facebook is getting into creating its own crypto, that should give you pause to say, okay, it's something we're going to take seriously at some point. Now, for you and I as merchants, there's going to be a solution that's going to allow us to turn it on in our store. I mean, that's going to not be a big thing. But if it's something in the technology wise that you don't want to just ignore, it's going to come at some point, and that day it's going to be a fast tipping point. A lot of people are going to want that. But it's nothing that you have to worry about today. I don't believe so. Watch the Facebook thing. If that goes through and we get adoption, it's going to happen really fast after that.
I know they're talking about Libra today. I was reading about IBM wants to team up with Facebook on Libra. So you're right. I think we're sort of
and banks are
that.
jumping in.
Yeah, that's right. The whole blockchain movement. You're right. Migration. Absolutely. Well, this is great. Well, thank you, John. This has been incredibly informative. I'm sure our audience will have some tangible takeaways, a whole bunch, I hope, and that's going to help them build a solid Amazon business. On behalf of the entire Elite team, our sincere appreciation, for you taking your time and sharing your such valuable knowledge. I also would like to thank our audience for participating in the Elite 2019 conference. We're also having other topics. We're going to have a whole bunch more. We'll be releasing over the next couple of weeks and the timelines. For example, we have the art of Amazon listing. Our speaker is Amy Weiss. How to protect your business from hackers and black hat tactics. CJ Rosenbaum. How do you mitigate risk? Insure against litigation. Ashlyn Haddon. A lot of these people are very well known in this domain, and a lot of them know you, John, quite well. How to source exactly. How to process products cheaper, quicker, and easier by Meghlab Hardwaj. Future of E-commerce by Michael Kirkaris. And then PPC, which is something we constantly hear a lot of people struggling with, because you have to compete with competition, and the way to get noticed is to pay your dues, so to speak, literally. And so we actually have two different sessions with two different experts. One's Max Hoffman and one is Bridge Purohit. And so, those are just a few of them. We'll probably have more, and the schedule will be published over the coming days. Once again, thank you for everything, John. We wish everyone much success in 2019 and beyond. Cheers. Thank you.
Peace.
Take care, sir.